Hello, and welcome to the Liferay DXP Basics Training course. Today, this module will be going over configuring business review processes. This module is targeted towards the business practitioner role, and the module is based off of Liferay DXP 7.3. So some key module takeaways for this module. First, workflows can be assigned to content to create comprehensive and clearly defined review processes. Workflows can also be applied to resources individually or collectively through folder restrictions and asset type workflows. So with this module, we are hoping to learn how to use workflow definitions and the workflow process in order to set permissions and set tasks using the assets and workflow process. Some exercise prerequisites. First, you should have the Java JDK installed to run Liferay DXP. The link is included below. If you do decide to search up Java JDK on your own, make sure you are downloading the JDK, not the JRE. The JRE does not have enough in it to run Liferay DXP. You do need the JDK, which does include the JRE inside of it. Second, you should have the module exercise files unzipped into your C Liferay directory if you're on Windows, or user home Liferay directory if you are on a Unix system. And third, you should have a running instance of Liferay DXP, which you should have done as long as you've unzipped your Tomcat and followed some of the exercises from earlier on. So the use case for this module is for the Livingston Hotels and Resorts. Livingston has several employees which need to create content across all of their sites. The team leads and site administrators of Livingston need the power to review and request updates on content before it's published to a site. So we need to set up a workflow such that the team leads and site administrators can review and request the updates accordingly. So as the employees make their requests, it'll go through the workflow pipeline. Relevant key performance indicators for this module. First, Livingston wants to improve the quality of public-facing content on their platform. And second, Livingston is hoping to increase the scope of the administrator control over published content. Business review processes. To maintain a consistent standard of quality, all content should go through a review process or a workflow. Range from simple, single approver models to highly complex, multi-stage processes. Workflows will range from simple, single approver models all the way up to complex workflows, which are multi-stage processes. Workflows in Liferay, by default, are the single approver workflow. Workflow components. A workflow is made up of at least 4 key components. First is states, which represent the state of the workflow. Second is transitions, which determine where the workflow goes next. Third is tasks, which represent an action that needs to be fulfilled within the review process. And lastly, we have the task assignments, which will determine who will fulfill a task. That typically being the user or a role, which contains the users, depending on how you implement your workflow. You can imagine a workflow as a sense of a graph, with each node in the graph being the states and the edges being the transitions, and the overall graph representing a task. Administrators can create and configure which workflow processes are in place at 2 levels, at the platform level and the site level. High-level platform configuration and definition creation is done by going to the control panel and accessing the workflow. This sets default workflows for every site. Site-level configuration for workflows can be found by navigating to Site Administration, Configuration, and Workflow. This will allow site administrators to assign specific workflows to site resources. Setting workflows with folder restrictions. Folder restrictions must be configured in order to add workflow processes to assets in documents and media. All web content in documents and media folders can have the following options set. They can have use restrictions and workflow for the parent folder. They can have the options for defining specific restrictions and workflow for this folder, and default workflow for a folder. As you can see below, the menu shows these options set for the workflow. Benefits of folder restrictions. They allow administrators to choose specific document types or structures that will be included in a particular folder. Just as well, folder restrictions will allow a particular workflow that can be set for all of the contents in a folder, or different workflows which can be set for each document type or structure depending on the use case. Walking through the review process. The following slides will be outlining the review process for the default single approver workflow. Administrators can set a workflow definition on an asset type from the workflow section of the control panel. After that, the content of that asset type is created and then submitted for review. Once it's submitted for review, a review task is created and a notification is sent to the administrator. Note that the user menu contains 3 different workflow sections: My Workflow Tasks, Notifications, and Submissions. Workflow Tasks allows access to a queue of items for review. The Notifications is just a notification display that can be set in workflow definitions. And the submissions are the user submissions with their current status. Once the administrator clicks on the notification and goes to Review Dashboard, where he or she can preview the content, edit the content, add comments before accepting or rejecting the content, or see the activity history for the item in review. The administrator will then approve or reject the content. If it's approved, the content's just published. If it's rejected, the content is sent back to the creator for edits right backwards in the workflow pipeline. So here's our knowledge check. Workflows allow users to create business review processes for resources in Liferay. Workflow definitions have at least 4 key parts: the states, transitions, tasks, and task assignments. Workflows can be applied to individual resources from the control panel or through folder restrictions for web content and documents in media.